Hi everyone, welcome to the stream, and let's get started. All right, so today we're going to be looking at O Come Little Children from Suzuki book number 1. So first, let's hear how the piece goes with the accompaniment. Okay, so now that we know how the song goes, let's take a look at the first line. So in this piece, we're going to look at something new, and it's called a pickup. So the pickup is when we play a last bit of an imaginary measure and into the next measure, into the beginning of the measure, right? So you can see we have an eighth note that's by itself in the very beginning, right? The A. So you can imagine that there's a complete measure before the first measure, right? And we just count out the full measure, and then on the last and, so at the end of the second beat, right? Because we're in 2/4. So we come in on the end of the second beat. So it would sound like this. So I'm gonna count the imaginary measure. So it would be like 1 and 2 and 1. So 1 and 2 and first measure, like that. So it sounds like this. So 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and. So you can see the end of this line, it repeats the pickup, but we don't start the phrase until the next line, right? So let's just try this first line together slowly. Remember to come in on the end of 2. So I'll count the imaginary measure, and on the last eighth note will come in. So, ready? 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and. Really good. Now, if we take a look at the next line, on the second line, we can actually see that it's the same phrase. So let's try this line once again. So I'm gonna count an imaginary measure, and we'll come in on the last eighth note. So 1 and 2, A, A, A. 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and 1 and 2. And then we have another pickup, right? All right, so let's take a look at the third line now. So the third line is what we call a melodic third. So we're gonna play E, and And then the next note that changes in the next measure, we're gonna skip a note and go to G, and then go back a step to F sharp, and then here we go. We not only skip G, but we also skip A all the way to B. So it's a little bit tricky. So let's try this line together. 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and G. 1 and 2 and F sharp. 2 B and 2 pick up. All right. How did it go? Not too bad, right? Now, let's take a look at the last line. So the last line is we start on A and go to D, A, F, G, E, open D. So let's try this line slowly. 1 and 2 and so those are all the notes. We've looked at it line by line. So here in the last measure, you can see that the measure only has 1.5 beat. And that's because we borrowed the last eighth note in the very beginning, right? So if we look at the whole piece, we can see that the very last measure is missing an eighth note, and that eighth note is in the very beginning as a pickup. So a pickup note is basically borrowing the last bit of the last measure. That's how I think about it, at least. All right, so if we look at the whole piece, we actually play it twice, right? Because there's a repeat sign at the end. So but for practice sake, for time's sake, let's not repeat it. Let's just play slowly a couple of times, and then we'll play with the accompaniment and then call it a day. All right, so remember to come in on and of 2, and let's play it slowly first. All right, from beginning to the end. 1 and 2 and 1 and 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and 2 and 1 and to B, 2, 3 and up, 1 and 2. So that's how you would repeat. All right, really good. Now, let's try it just a little bit faster. So let's go this fast. 1 and 2 and like that. All right. Let's do one full measure empty and then the measure with the pickup. So two measures of counting. You'll hear it. All right. 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and 1 and 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 1 and 2 and 1 Let's try it one more time, and let's do it faster. So we're gonna go 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and that fast. Get ready. 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and one and two. Let's repeat the song and one and two. One and two. And two. Excellent. All right. So now let's try playing with the accompaniment, and we'll call it a day. And remember to play it 2 times the piece because we have to repeat, right? So I'm not gonna say it, but remember to repeat the whole piece twice. All right. How did it go? Hopefully it went well. Just take your time learning the piece, and again, play it line by line, practice it line by line, play it slowly until you're comfortable with all the notes and all the different coordination and things like that, right? So hopefully this helped, and I'll catch you next time, next week on Monday. So I'm gonna try and keep the live lessons on Mondays in the afternoon Pacific. All right, I'll see you until next time. Bye.